Welcome in everybody to the brand new junior hockey pod for Youth Hockey Hub. It's going to be a fun season, a brand new pod. We got a bunch of fun, cool content here coming your way. My name's Sydney Wolf. I'm going to be on the pod here with Drew Steele, who is sitting virtually across from me. And we are also missing a member of our crew as well for this first episode. Peter is not in the country, so he is excused, I guess, from this first episode.
Yeah, we weren't important enough to make the first episode. Virtual podcast, though. I guess what time is it where he's at? Probably midnight. I mean, can't be doing much right now, right?
I mean, like, go to where is it? Scotland. Go to Scotland or record the junior hockey pod. I
Brand
think.
brand new thing versus really old thing. That's what I'm looking at.
So this is gonna be a super fun pod. I think it's gonna be a blast, and we're gonna have a lot of funny segments, and also just keep people up to date on some of the Minnesotans, and then just also other big name athletes through mainly the USHL, but through some of the other leagues as well. We got a bunch of fun stuff planned, and this show is brought to you by the USHL itself. So obviously, we're going to be talking a lot about them and the guys in the USHL because Drew, for anybody who doesn't know you, do you kind of want to say like your role and stuff with like Madison and kind of what you do?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm the director of media relations for the Caps. You'll see some Caps stuff in the background. I was told to have plugs. This was a bobblehead we gave away last year. Shout out. But yeah, no. So I work as the director of media relations. I'm the broadcaster for the team too. But yeah, I've been working with Youth Hockey Hub since I was a freshman in college, I think. So been in and out a whole bunch, editing on the back end, while also doing my thing here in Corpus. Now in Madison, I was in St. Cloud with one Sydney Wolf, classmates there. So yeah, back like we never left St. Cloud, but in different locations now.
Yeah, it's crazy because we're doing this podcast and there's so many of us St. Cloud State people. I had to plug it a little bit because we have so many fellow media people and just throughout juniors now, the NAL, the USHL, you name it. It's kind of crazy. So we all kind of just end up seeing each other all the time, which is great. But so this show brought to you by not only the USHL, also APX Hockey. Obviously, I can talk a little bit about them because I work for APX. We got a lot of great stuff coming out here, stories that I've written and stuff, and databases on our website. If you go to apx-hockey.com, a lot of great stuff, some USHL features as well recently. So go check those out. And also, as always, just great training and development for players and advising as well. So if any of that interests you, go to our website and check it out. A lot of great people over at APX. So those are your sponsors, APX and USHL. But we got a lot of awesome stuff to talk about. We did get going a little late. I know the season's been going for a couple of weeks now, and we do have some news tidbits to get to, Drew. But the start of the USHL season, I feel like always starts a little bit with the showcase for a lot of people. Everyone
Yeah.
goes, socializes, you get your first kind of viewings of players and teams, and you were there. So, did you have any kind of like highlights or funny moments, or kind of just what did you experience at the showcase this year?
The showcase is always an awesome event that the league puts on each year. I know you mentioned Peter will be on the show eventually. Peter was doing those mini pods with all the different people, helping set that up with Tom Gilbert, our associate head coach, longtime NHLer. But yeah, no, it's the showcase is always fun. That's always the big thing. It's nice seeing everybody, but also you get to see all the teams at once and kind of getting all that action and looks like the Eastern Conference is going to be kind of tough this year for my Caps, but at the same time, across the league, it looks like there's a lot of parity. It's a lot of close games. I talked with Glenn Heffron last Friday. He was actually in Madison for the Caps game, and it was cool to kind of get to hear his perspective on how the season's going so far. And I think a lot of exciting things going on around the league because of it.
So the showcase happened, and obviously, when Peter comes on here, he can talk about if there's anything specific he saw or heard that's interesting. I feel like that's always the time too, where I'm always looking at the line charts that are posted. I'm going, okay, who's still got logos by their name, who doesn't, and we'll talk about that too on the show today because that's always like a big topic of like, this guy I don't think's committed here anymore. That's always like a big hot topic, or just for recruiting in general, because all the coaches always go to the showcase and watch players and stuff. But first, I mean, like the big main news of this past week, we're recording this like the first week or so of October is that Mark Carlson of Cedar Rapids surpassed the most regular season wins in league history. I believe that number was 779. So he got that win in his 1500th USHL game. And that is absolutely insane and pretty cool, too, that I think Peter was able to talk with him at the showcase, too.
Yeah, Peter, I think had the chance to talk with him, and my interactions with Carly, he's awesome. Like to be able to transcend generations now at this point, from when the late '90s when he started to now, like just that whole time frame is crazy. That he's been the same coach at the same spot for that long. I feel like you don't see that a ton these days. But just to pass PK O'Hanley too at the same time, passing PK, and obviously he's a well-respected coach in the league too. Anytime you're able to collect that many wins, you're doing something right. And yeah, no, Peter talked with him, so even better to go look at his clips with him. But yeah, it's awesome for Carly and the whole Cedar Rapids crew there that he's been there since day one.
Yeah, it's crazy because I feel like everybody constantly after a while at the USHL, even if they're doing well, eventually moves on to, a college job or just some other job, maybe a pro job somewhere. And you look at his kind of history and stuff, it's like, oh, well, there was, college assistant coaches and stuff like way back in the day, but it's been Cedar Rapids for a long time. So that's crazy, but definitely cool to see. And it's also nice too if you're a part of that organization or a fan because there's not going to be like some crazy turnover when you don't have coaches coming and going all the time. At least there's kind of some consistency a little bit. You sort of know at least a little bit of what you're getting year in, year out, different players, but at least you sort of have an idea every year of what you're getting into a little bit.
Yeah, how crazy that you could go to a game in 2003, not go to another Rough Rider game until 2025, and it's the same guy there. Like, I feel like that doesn't happen at all anymore. And even the USHL posted that like congratulation video, and you see like guys that coached in the league while he was in the league, like Jim Montgomery, John Cooper. Like, they all started in the USHL and have become NHL head coaches since Carly took over in Cedar Rapids. Like, he's just been there forever and he's been a mainstay in the league.
Yeah, it's just crazy because the league is so different. Even like 5 year difference in junior hockey leagues are completely different or adding, subtracting teams and stuff. So that's absolutely insane. Obviously, that's like the headline of news for recently. But I thought we would talk a little bit about since I said, the line charts early on, everybody's always looking at them. Any notable decommitments, new commitments, that kind of stuff, because I always think that's super interesting. And people are always creeping into my DMs this time of year to be like, what do you know about this? What do you know about this? Hey, you need to tweet. This person's not committed here anymore. And there's a lot of that going on. And I guess the first one that we've seen is one of the members of the Capitals. So maybe you can talk about him a little bit or just, what you've seen from
Yeah.
him so far this year is, Will Doshin was a Princeton commit and now looks to be back on the market. But I know he's had some success recently too for the Caps.
Yeah, he's been in and out of the lineup early this season, but this past weekend played on Saturday and picked up 2 assists, his first USHL point, and then had an assist on the cherry on top on the empty net goal as well, winning a faceoff. And uh, Andy Brandt and company on the Caps bench clearly trusts him in the moments when things matter the most. He was out there with 2 minutes to go, cage empty on the other end. So clearly the Caps trust him, and obviously you don't love to see a kid dropping a logo, but hopefully there's another one coming soon because uh, our league typically has just continually had better and better logos go on line charts for years. So no shot at Princeton there by any means, but maybe it's because a different college is where he wants to end up. Who knows? But yeah, better start for the season last week than he's had the past couple of games prior. But yeah, it was awesome to see him succeed this weekend.
Yeah, and if you're a YHH listener, I'm sure you know of him from his time at St. Thomas Academy, just graduated this past spring, wore a C for them. So definitely a guy that can be a leader. And he had 42 points last year, which included 24 goals. And he's a guy that's got size as well. He's listed on Elite Prospects as 6'3", 205. So got a lot of good aspects of his game. So we'll see if there's another commitment coming soon. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Another one that didn't entirely surprise me just because some of those guys, when they've been committed a long time, I'm not as surprised to see, maybe this school's got a log jam kind of recruits or just things like that, was Dallas View, who's playing with Sioux City. He's been a Penn State commit for a while. I want to say maybe he committed in that early recruiting period, like maybe his junior year, I think. So he's been committed to Penn State for a long time. And just recently, I saw the logo was no longer there. And as we know, Penn State has been picking up a lot of those, high name recruits. So maybe that's just what they're doing, and he wants to try his luck somewhere else. I'm not exactly sure, but that was another name I saw on the market here along with Ashton Doms of Tri City. I'm not sure if that happened recently or not, but he was a Minnesota Duluth commit. And again, I have not seen that logo next to his name. And I don't know if you've seen any other ones, but those are just the first kind of three that I've seen recently here.
Yeah, those are the three main ones that I've seen too. I think it's always weird at this time of year, right? Like you have players thinking they want to go to different schools or better schools in their perspective. You also have teams saying, "Hey, we might not have a spot for you come year end," and maybe it's the coach didn't visit the right time at the fall classic or something like that. I know I've heard of examples like that. So it's a weird time of the year, right? Where anybody could be going anywhere at this time of the year. Give it 4 months and you'll have a better idea. But those guys who have been committed for a long time, it does kind of open your eye like, oh, maybe they're going somewhere else now.
Yeah, and then just for people who are listening to, so Dallas View was a former Hermantown guy, if that's a name you remember from a while ago, and Ashton Johns formerly played at Lakeville South there, and then he kind of had some time in the Null as well, so some time in the Null, some time in the USHL between Tri-City and Des Moines. So those are two noticeable Minnesotan ones that I saw that I thought we would mention. And obviously hope to see some new commitments maybe for those guys soon. I don't know. We'll see. And then new commitments, a couple. I'm sure there's way more than this. I didn't want to write all of them down. Obviously, we focus on Minnesotans, but if there's any other guys, we might throw their names in here as well. One that's not a Minnesotan, but I heard a lot of buzz about his name from the showcase, just from a couple different scouts, was Luke McNamara of Fargo Forest, committed to Western Michigan, who we all know is a powerhouse team right now. And he's one of those guys. You go on his elite prospects. He played like 4 years in the OHL and now is in the USHL, which is crazy. And I don't know if you've seen any of those guys, but it's kind of weird to think like and wild that now we're getting some guys more and more who are going like major junior and now switching it up and coming here. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I think it's nuts on both sides, right? Like you're going to see more guys going from the USHL to major junior, but you're also going to see that reversed coming the other way now that there's guys that can go to college and want to get in front of more scouts. I don't know exactly what McNamara's case was, but you get to the USHL, you get a pretty decent logo by your name, right? Western Michigan's winning national championships now. You tell me that 10 years ago, I might be like, huh? Like raise my eyebrows a little bit, but good for him. And yeah, it's gonna be the Wild West for the next couple of years until everything kind of settles down. And maybe it's the Wild West forever. But you mentioned it with Penn State, with Dallas View, uh, Penn State bringing in all sorts of CHL guys, and now Luke McNamara, a kid that was in the CHL, going to Western Michigan, but now playing in the USHL. It's crazy.
Yeah, I feel like it used to be the thing where you get a couple guys. Usually I feel like it was goalies who would be in major junior and then maybe they'd come play in the USHL for a year to see kind of how they could do, but it was pretty rare. I feel like every once in a while you'd get like one of those guys, and now I think we're starting to get a little bit of a trickle, which is interesting. So we'll see, because that guy specifically McNamara is going to only have this season to play in the USHL because he's 20. He already played a lot of juniors, but kind of cool to see because yeah, it's a little bit more rare, I feel like, to go major junior to USHL instead of vice versa. But this year's going to be kind of funky. We're just going to have to see what happens with all of that.
5 years
Um,
of junior hockey is crazy too. That's a
yeah,
long time. Like that's a
long,
grind and a half. So shout out to Luke McNamara for keeping it up for that long and now
probably a
playing
lot
in the
of billet.
USHL.
Yeah, a lot of different
Yeah.
billet families probably, and yeah, that's wild. But we got some other commitments as well. We might as well talk about the Madison guy, Caleb Pitsley, going to Augustana. And I'm sure any YHH listeners would know his name from Edina in the past. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, Pitsley's been good for Madison so far. They have him on a line with Tyden Bergeson and Jackson Nevers. Nevers played high school with Pitsley at Edina. And Bergeson obviously won a state championship last year at Moorhead too. So a whole Minnesotan line, and that line's been kind of buzzing lately. I think they put in a couple on Friday night and even more the weekends before. So yeah, Pitsley's been really good. No shock that there's Division I teams that want him. Augustana, I think, just keeps picking up those Minnesota kids. Bergeson, another Augustana commit here with the Caps. But overall, I think Augustana just with those roots that Raboynes had in Minnesota for so long, whether it was St. Cloud or at the U, now able to go to Augustana, right? Sioux Falls is basically Minnesota. Like it's not Minnesota, but you could throw a rock and almost hit it, I feel. So right on the border there, I think he's able to get some of those kids that would be typical St. Cloud, St. Thomas, Duluth type guys. And you're right, you're close enough to home where it's not like you're going out east to Vermont or anything.
So that was definitely a nice to see him commit into Augustana. They're getting some good Minnesota players here recently, and a couple other Minnesotan guys as well. Ryland Rooney, this one was a little bit older, but still fairly recent. Commits to Wisconsin, and I feel like he's probably going to have a good USHL season this year once he's got a couple games under his belt because I'm sure people know him from Gentry last year. He had 69 points in 26 games, so obviously not too shabby. I know some people were hoping, maybe there would be a possibility that he'd go to Mankato because I heard his dad played there. But, a lot of kids nowadays not doing the same path as their parents. We're seeing that, I feel like, on girls and boys hockey all across the board. But he committed to Wisconsin and he's currently playing for Des Moines. So I don't know if you've watched him at all, Drew, or Easton Johnson of the NTDP also recently announced he was committing to Michigan, which I feel like we don't see a ton of Minnesota kids going to Michigan. Every once in a while there's a couple, but he was a Minnesotan, so thought I'd mention him. I actually talked with Tony on the phone about him the other day a little bit. He's actually a Laverne guy, which is super cool to see those Southern Minnesota guys getting commitments. But he played most of his career with Sioux Falls Power before joining the NTDP. So he committed to Michigan, which is cool to see. So I don't know if there was any other commitments you wanted to talk about at all, but those were just a couple notable ones I've seen over the last few weeks here.
Yeah, nothing too crazy. I don't know any off the top of my head. I know Johnson. I actually saw him play on Friday. The Caps had the 17s in town. Uh, it wasn't a great game for the 17s, so I'm not gonna like take any notes from
Yeah.
Johnson's gameplay. It's their first USHL game against 20-year-olds as 16-year-olds, so always not gonna look the greatest your first couple times out. But yeah, Minnesota to Michigan, I feel like you don't see that a ton. You've seen a couple Michigan States go on and offline charts, I guess, with the Cullens and Mason West now committed to Michigan State. But Rylan Rooney, I actually saw play last spring. He played for the Long Island Gulls after the season was over. So he played with Boomer DeMars, another Minnesota kid, at Nationals here in Madison, and got to watch them a little bit. And Rooney's a special talent. He was head and head over shoulders or whatever you want to say. He was just taller than the rest of the kids out there, so it looked natural for him to slide into a USHL team as a tender this year too. So yeah, I don't know. The Minnesota State would be great. I just haven't seen a ton of tenders going to Minnesota State in that level recently. Like Wisconsin's probably more of a fit for a kid that's tendering in the league, just with how trends have been going recently.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that with so many like different players lately. I know just on the girls' side too, everyone recently was bummed yesterday on the YHH Twitter because Emily Pohl said she's going to Wisconsin instead of Minnesota, like her parents. Or obviously, as a St. Cloud State fan, I would have wished we could have gotten uh, one of the Cullens, but it looks like they were Michigan State and now they're going to Minnesota. So obviously, kids I feel like nowadays are doing a lot of different things, and obviously programs are very different. I'm sure than when their parents went to college and all that stuff, but that's always fun to see kind of where those guys are going to school. Or obviously, I talked to Gunnar Conboy too and wrote something on him for APX. So cool to see all those commitments lately, though. But one thing I know we wanted to talk about a little bit was, and they do this on the boys' high school show as well. But any inside info we have on any of the Minnesota guys who might be going back to high school, like after their short stint at the beginning of the year with their USHL teams is over, or if they're staying the full season. And I don't know if you've heard anything, Drew, about any of the Caps players at all, or if it's all kind of like, well, maybe I don't know, or I don't know if you've heard anything about any of the other guys as well.
Yeah, I mean, I know you talked with a couple today. I'm sure we'll get to it, but Pitsley, I've kind of got the gist that he's staying the whole year. Obviously, don't quote me 1,000% on that, but he's tearing it up right now. And Bergeson's the other one that could go back. I've heard he hasn't completely made up his mind yet. I know he's been doing really well for the Caps, and the Caps staff would love to have him here all year. So it's kind of that one where you could go back and play high school hockey. You could stay here. I don't think there's a losing scenario there for Bergeson, but you're putting up nearly a point per game in the USHL, so he's not doing too shabby wherever he's at. But I know you talked with Lincoln's guys today, right? Or for APX?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to those guys a little bit with Casey Vandertop, who would be Edina, and Nate Pedersen, who would be with Shakopee. And I talked to both of them. And I know a couple of accounts on Twitter were like, oh, they're staying the whole year. And they told me as of now, which again, guys sometimes change their minds really late, but as of now, their plan is both to stay in Lincoln instead of go back. But sometimes I'm not as surprised, especially with your guys on the Caps roster, Drew, that like some of the guys who've already won a state title don't want to go back necessarily, because if you've already won state, I feel like that makes it a little less convincing to go back if you're like, okay, I've done the thing that everybody wants to do a little bit. Because obviously, if you're from Edina, they've won it pretty recently. So like Pitsley's won a state title, Titan Bergeson's obviously like won with Moorhead. So I feel like then that's like a little bit less of a reason to go back compared to if you're a guy who got really close like last year and everybody's going back and you want to make a big push. So I wouldn't be super surprised maybe if they stay this year, but I also wouldn't be, I guess, super surprised if they leave too. But I guess we'll have to wait a couple more weeks. But a couple other guys too that I'm not really sure, or I am a little bit more sure on. Rylan Rooney, I assume, is staying the whole season. He signed a tender, like we said. So definitely, I think he did everything he could do at Gentry. He had so many points last year. So USHL, I assume full season unless something happened because he's a tender. The other Moorhead guy would be Zach Zimmerman, who I believe is with Fargo right now. Again, I don't know. Peter texted us that Tony heard maybe possibly one of the Moorhead kids could go back. I'm not sure who that means or what that means, but maybe there is still hope that some of the Fargo, or not Fargo, some of the Moorhead guys would return. I'm not sure. And then just some other rumors we've heard as well is possibly Luca Jarvis staying in the USHL for the full season, and possibly Becker Winkus going back to Edina. But he's pretty young, so I wouldn't be super surprised on that one because I believe he would be younger than some of these other guys we're talking about. Yeah, he's an '09, so I feel like that's a little bit tougher of a decision. But he's got 2 assists in 2 games, so you just never know. And then there's guys too like St. Cloud State recruit Kaz Carlson, who would be a Rockridge player. I assume he would go back for his high school season, but I have no idea.
Yeah, I know he signed a tender with Watertown too. So he's in Waterloo. He's been playing a lot for them. I don't know like what their plan is or what his plan is directly, but I do know that he did sign that tender in Watertown too. So maybe he doesn't stick in the USHL, he could go there too. I don't know for sure. Another name that I just thought of that's not on this list, Mason West. Obviously, I think it's been pretty public that he's not going back to high school. He's going to stay at. He's going to play high school football all season long. He's sure he's tearing it up for the Hornets. I think I just
Oh,
saw they lost the other day to Lakeville South, but uh, shout out Alex Cotter, Lakeville South alum.
shout out, shout out.
Shout out. But then he's going up to Fargo. The only reason I can say that with pretty much 100% confidence, he told John Gruden that on Barstool. So I don't think that's one conversation you'd think would normally happen. Uh, First round NHL draft pick talking with John Gruden, but having to decide between high school hockey and the Fargo Force. But yeah, it looks like he's going back. He's going to Fargo, not going back.
Yeah, I thought that was crazy too. Like, oh, maybe if he's going back for football, he'd go back to Edina. But again, I think the Edina guys, like so many of them are like, well, I've won state already. did that thing. So for him, I'm sure he's like, well, I want to win a football title too. But,
Well, and
that's,
I wonder if there's trickle down with that too, right? Like Vandertop, Pitsley, West, like a lot
yeah,
of these guys all going, if that has some sort of effect, right? Like all your buddies aren't coming back. Like, you know what? It makes the decision a little easier. Where if, say, Bergeson goes back or Zimmerman goes back, hey, let's go run it back for another season. If you get one to go, maybe it's the dominoes, they go back together. Who knows?
for sure. So you never really know with those guys. Oh, and I just looked it up. Yeah, so Kaz Carlson would be going back to Rockridge. If he does, he did end last season in Watertown of the Knoll, but then is in Waterloo right now. The Watertown, the Water Cities, I guess, is where he's playing. But Waterloo right now. So we'll see if he stays or if he goes back to Rockridge. Not sure on that one. There's probably a couple other guys as well, but those are just some of the rumors we've heard. You never know. Except like I said, I did talk to Vandertop and Pedersen, but you never know if we hear anything else. We'll have to mention it on the show. Maybe Peter will have some more insight when he comes back and knowledge that he can share with us. But we're primarily on the show probably going to be talking mostly about USHL, but we might throw in some notes on the other leagues as well, like any major junior guys or null guys, anybody making a splash. And I know there was a couple different guys recently who've been doing pretty well. I don't know if you've seen some of those, Drew, of guys in the dub or any null guys as well. It's always cool to see them doing good on their new teams.
Yeah, you like to see Minnesotans succeeding wherever they're at. Mason Kraft, Mr. Hockey, a prevalent one, obviously. He scored his first goal over the weekend, so that's cool to see. And a couple others out there in the dub, too. So it's a weird, right? These kids can go to college now after for so long. Hey, you have to pick at age 16, or in Minnesotans' cases, it was usually 18. You have to pick between going to college or going to major junior. And usually it had always been the easy choice for Minnesotan. Hey, I'm going to go play college hockey, go to the USHL. And it's worked, right? It's worked in the past for a lot of Minnesotans. State of hockey, we have tons of Division 1 teams, tons of Division 1 teams right over the border too. I know North Dakota is a different state, but Grand Forks is right across the border from East Grand Forks, Sioux Falls, really close to the Minnesotan border too. You see more kids going to Wisconsin, so it's going to be interesting. Like I said earlier, it's going to be the Wild West. Kraft, Kowalski, I saw standing out too up there in the WHL. I don't quite know his stat line from the weekend, but yeah, there's a lot of Minnesotans succeeding everywhere right now.
Yeah, Krasnica specifically, it looks like just yesterday was named the WHL Rookie of the Week, and he had 7 points in 3 games for Penticton. He had 3 goals, 4 assists. So nice to see him doing well. It's always cool to see those guys who are NTDP and then they do that extra year. And I feel like a lot of times those guys light it up, like I'm sure you guys know in Madison with like Austin Bernovic or just some of those other guys who they take that extra year. And I feel like if they're guys who maybe got lost a little bit on the depth chart sometimes for the NTDP or had injury issues or whatever it was, then they do that extra year and then they're really, really good after that. So I always like to see that and those guys kind of killing it. And I saw some people recently as well talking about Carter Casey playing, I believe it's in Medicine Hat. Let me double check. Yeah, Medicine Hat of the dub, and it looks like through 2 games he's already got a 902 save percentage. So love to see that because obviously being a goalie is hard in any juniors league when you're young. He's only 17, so shout out a couple Minnesotans doing really well. But now they're kind of all over the roster. It's weird to be looking at. I don't know about you, Drew, but looking at some of these rosters that'll show up in my for you feed, and normally I wouldn't really look too closely at like rosters from the CHL, but now I'm looking and going, oh, who do I know on these? Oh, this guy's on this team now. That's so weird.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like especially just this off season with the Caps. Like we had kids go to the CHL. Like more power to them. I'm glad that they're able to make a decision that they think's best for them. We're pretty confident in our ways here, but it's cool to see like those kids going back and forth. But it is weird, like having to look at different rosters, like having to look at Oshawa's roster just to see like who's on it. Like hey, did any players that played in our league last year go there? Did any high school kids go straight? Or Boomer DeMars, I know we said his name earlier. He's playing in Penticton, which Penticton for the longest time just been the BCHL option where kids would go there and they'd still be able to go to college. Now they're still able to go to college, but they're in the dub, so everything's a little wacky this year. I think that's the word I'd use to describe it the most.
Yeah, it's really weird. I'm still getting used to going like, oh, I need to look at this Medicine Hat roster. Who do I know on here, and who's tearing it up, and who's a Minnesotan, and all that stuff. But obviously, the null is still going. I'm going to be really curious this year to see if there's less null D1 commitments at all, just because now we have all those influx of CHL guys. So I hope we still get guys from the NAHL committing to play D1, but I know it's going to be a lot different this year with all the new guys coming in from major junior and stuff. But we were kind of looking at the null leading scorers and stuff before we started recording and stuff, and we got some awesome all null team names on here, and we also got a couple Minnesotans I see not like at the top, but in the top 10 of some guys here in scoring. I mean, they don't have a ton of games yet in the null, but for example, like Hans Hedlund is in the top 10 right now for Janesville, for like overall null scoring, not just like on the team or something, but he's got a decent amount of points, 12 points through 8 games. Or another name people might know, Andrew Earl, got 12 points through 9 games for New Mexico. So a couple Minnesotans tearing it up, and we were kind of laughing too. The top name, I know I'm just going to butcher it, but so far, null leading scorer is Semyon Marshanok. Gonna take a guess
Yeah,
on.
no pronunciation guide on elite prospects. I'll go with Semyon Morshyanok. I don't know. I'm glad that kid's playing in the NAHL, and I'm not gonna have to say that one as the broadcaster here. But who knows? If he keeps tearing it up, he might be in our league soon.
Yeah, he's playing for Austin, and he's at the obviously again we said like they don't have a ton of games so far, but he's got 15 points through 7 games, 8 goals for Austin. Shout out Austin. Love shouting them out. I got some Austin ties in the family. But it's kind of crazy seeing. I just looked up his elite prospects page just because I was curious, like where did this guy come from? Because I hadn't heard of him before. Guy from Minsk, Belarus. He's 20, and he spent the last few years in the NCDC and the USPHL Premier, and now
Rock
he's like
on.
decided to just tear it up in the null. So I'm like loving
He
that. I
took
feel
that step.
like it's rare that they jump up to the null or the USHL and make a huge splash. So that's honestly like super cool to see.
Yeah, I like any of those kids that like you typically would not be anywhere near where you're at right now. But I think the best players get found, right? I think that's the biggest thing. I know you mentioned the null commitments, if there's going to be any. I think the top players will always still find a spot, right? That's the going to be the key. The roster limits is going to be weird though too. That's the other
Oh,
thing with the college hockey thing that's coming in.
Drew, I gotta tell you, I just found out a key critical piece of information on this player. I'm doing last minute digging while we're recording. This guy has a twin brother on the team named Matvey Morshianok.
Rock on.
Brother on the team as well, who's also pretty good, got 8 points in 7 games. So, dude, I'm daring some team pick these twin brothers up because they're killing it for Austin right now. And I
We already got a pair of twins here in Madison from Germany.
oh,
Gustavs and
correct.
Rehards Grieva. We had a
That's
pair of twins. And then we have another twin on the team. The other Euro on the team, Ville Varla. He's also a twin, but his twin brother is just not on the team. So
so
that's a sad story for the twin.
the
But yeah, we have
twins that
3 Euro.
are on your team. Are they similar or are they like completely different? What do you think?
Like players or just people?
Either or both.
Yeah, I think that like they're both very smart players. I think that they look the same. The only thing that like I can tell the difference is because of the haircut right now.
Okay.
Gustavs has some longer hair. Shout out Gus. He tied for the league lead in points in the league right now, but he's got some longer hair, so I can see that a little more. But yeah, they're both really smart players. It's crazy like that we have 3 Euros though, and all three are at least parts of sets of twins. And
Yeah.
like, yeah, just a crazy fun fact for those people out there.
That's wild. And like these two, I love. This has to be like a top. elite prospects photo. Both brothers, their picture is them like standing during the national anthem, I think it looks like. And I love it. And they look hardcore. So shout out to them. I love
That
just
is
like
sick.
finding, little things like that. And I hope they just keep killing it for Austin. Shout out Austin. Shout out Hormel. Shout out Spam. Love it. Shout out the Bruins. They're doing pretty good in the Central. I know the Central Division in the NAL is always like tough though. Got a lot of good teams there, and we were just kind of looking at the standings in the NAL too, just kind of to see what was going on because I know we both are like, well, I watch a lot of USHL, but sometimes I gotta remember what's going on in the NAL a little bit. And just even looking at the standings, not crazy different from last year, but some of the top teams so far at the top of their divisions. Lone Stars at the top for the South. The Midwest is Minnesota, the Wilderness, not the Mallards. The East is Maryland and Johnstown, and the Central Aberdeen, the Wings at the top. And I feel like we should talk about the USHL standings too. I know you've got a little bit of insight on some of the teams, but I know it sounds like the East and the West are pretty different this year.
Yeah, right now, the teams tied for fifth in the Eastern Conference would be in first place in the West right now. So early on in the year, it's been heavy towards that East side, but a lot of familiar faces towards the top. Clark Cup champions, Muskegon still undefeated right now. So a whole bunch of obviously it's the same thing with the NAHL. Even less games played in the USHL right now. I mean, you look up and down. I think the most games played is six by a handful of teams. But other than that, the West, that's the other part. A lot of the teams in the West haven't played a ton of games yet. But it is crazy to like look at how stacked one conference is right now, standings wise, and the other side just isn't quite there yet. But hopefully, some it's able to balance itself out a little bit. I know that it's been a struggle for some teams early on, and hopefully they're able to turn it around because you don't want a long year for anybody.
And currently at the top of the East, obviously not surprising with Muskegon with the year they had last year. And I thought I'd just say too, it's kind of crazy seeing Jack Christ. I saw the other day, he's just like still scoring clutch goals just all the time. I don't know if people saw this, but the other day I saw some clips from this game. He with one less than a second on the clock scored a goal to tie the game up at 2-2 against Youngstown. Like literally, I think it was like less than a second, like a true buzzer beater, and sent the game to overtime. And then the Lumberjacks won 4-3, and he had the primary assist on the game winner. So love to see the Minnesotans just being clutch, and obviously he was clutch for them in the postseason. So that's wild.
I feel like they had a buzzer beater last year to send a game to overtime too. Muskegon's got some sort of magic with a second left because I think there was a goal in the Clark Cup final against Waterloo with like 19, it was like point 0.2 or whatever. Like in the background, you're like trying to time it up with the green lights going off behind the goal and the puck going in the back of the net. They must have something in the clock system there that they know to send it towards the net with less than a second left.
All the workers must just not like that because then they're all packing up, getting ready to go home, and then they're like, "Oh gosh, it's another another one of those nights." Or for people like us in media, if you're doing stats and you're like, "Okay, I got the box score already, it's all done, got this all good," or if you're writing a story, you got like your headline all good to go, and then when stuff like that happens, you're like, "Okay, well, obviously I'm excited if you're a fan of the team, but then you got to just kind of scrap everything and just do something else." So it's a little chaotic.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, it gets crazy. It gets crazy late in games.
but so that's just a couple notes kind of on a little bit of the standings and stuff like that. But obviously, we're still really early in the season. A lot of teams only have, 5 or so games played in the USHL. And you can look at the top scores and stuff for the USHL, but again, with just like 5 or 6 games played for a lot of people, it's tough to kind of discern who's going to be the top scorers this year because some guys might have just had a couple really big games. But right now, one of your Madison guys is at the top there, and I believe it's one of the twins that you
Yeah,
just mentioned. um, and he's got 8 points through 6 games, and then also guys with 8 points, another fellow Minnesotan, Malachi McKinnon, for Youngstown's got 8, and then Charlie Aaron for Dubuque's got 8. And then there's a couple guys at 7 and a lot of guys at 6. So kind of hard to tell right now sort of who's going to be on top in a couple of weeks because 8 points you might have gotten like a 3-point game, and obviously things are a little skewed early on, but a couple people starting to pull away a little bit, but give us a couple weeks,
Yeah.
a little bit better understanding here.
Yeah, it's nice to see Cooper Simpson up there too. He's in a new spot. He got traded over the offseason from Tri-City to Youngstown too. He's one of the players at 7. So yeah, I mean, early on you can say whatever you want. They don't crown an MVP 6 games in. So I'll be interested to see what this shapes out in like 20 more games. I think that's when you can start to kind of like actually get the gist of who's towards the top and like who are actually the best players in the league. I hope it stays the same. I hope Gus keeps tearing it up for the Caps. Obviously, time will tell in that respect.
So with this show just being us two this week, and we're still early in the season, we don't have Peter. We wanted to make sure we had other things on the show that wasn't just us talking about games or players. And obviously, we'll get more into different games and series as the season goes on. Just this is the first episode, so wanted to do just a little bit of everything, and then we'll get more into like games that were crazy, series that were crazy, other stuff when Peter comes back and we get a little bit more in depth with everything. But we wanted to keep things funny and have some funny segments. We're like, oh, what can we do to like make this show, not just the junior hockey pod. Which, by the way, if anyone has any name suggestions for this pod, let us know. I jokingly said the Steel Wolf pod because that incorporates all of our last names, but the Steel Wolf spelled differently also is a bar in St. Cloud. So potential sponsor question mark, Drew? I don't
Why
know.
not? Why not? Why not? I would definitely take a trade deal with them if I ever make my way back to St. Cloud. But yeah, no, the Steel Wolf. I've had a couple good times in that bar. But yeah, no, it's it's great to be here and great to have some fun stuff too at the same time. We don't want to just have the same old. We're not just going to read box scores each week. I think it's fun to keep it loose. And I think one of the ideas you had for fun things to bring up is unhinged Facebook comments. I don't know if you guys are aware at home, but some of the group chats on Facebook get going pretty hard.
They
I
get
think I
pretty
kept it kind. Yeah, I kept it kind of light with the unhinged comments of the week. But we'll first start with our friends here in Nebraska. Uh, Ryan, I'm not even going to try to say that last name. Ryan says the only good thing to come out of Nebraska is I-80. I'm going to take a wild guess that's a Cedar Rapids fan since he's got the green and black hearts next to the name. And Mike and Tom start chipping in the comments as well. Idiots out wandering around. So fun to kind of pick at the states around Minnesota a bit, but we never wander into that wasteland called Nebraska. I think Tom really stuck it to Ryan there with that one. I don't know how Ryan's ever going to be able to recover there.
Yeah, and I mean, there are some truly like, and I'm in a lot of the Facebook groups. So if people don't know, I'm lurking. I'm lurking in those Facebook groups. So we probably see a lot of these comments. So if you say something really unhinged, we will probably just progressively get weirder and wilder as the show goes on. So just so you know, if you're in a Facebook group, you are not safe. We will screenshot anything that's just wild if we see it, because you never know, and there's a lot of very interesting things sometimes said online that we got to put out there because they're
Yeah,
unhinged for whatever reason. Sometimes they're
it
like this
gets
funny, but you never know.
it gets crazy in those chats. So one more I have from the unhinged. This one's not as much unhinged, but I just feel bad for the people at Omaha sometimes. I'm not a fair weather fan, but I even have my limits. Hopefully, they'll give me a reason to resubscribe in a month or two. Steve is struggling, not interested in paying to watch my team be the embarrassment of the league for fourth straight season. So hopefully, Steve's able to have something to cheer about here, but that's tough. You think they
Uh,
give him his money back for that?
just the poor Omaha Omaha fans. And I was gonna rip on Omaha a little bit here for this show. I know obviously the fans don't need anything negative, and this isn't negative. This is more of a funny thing that I wanted to put in there. And I tweeted this, but it didn't get that much traction, which I'm surprised because I thought this was hilarious. Why, Drew, is Omaha listing their athletes to the nearest quarter of an inch for height? Who needs to know if the like I just looked and they're still doing it as of October 4th. I can look at the line chart, look at all of these players. Top player on the top line, 6'3" and 1/4, 5'10",
Huge.
1/4. Do these guys really need the quarter of the inch? Like, I'm glad that they're being really exact, but I don't think that that quarter of an inch is gonna do very much for you.
I don't think that's gonna make a difference, and NHL Central Scouting usually does, like, heights and weights too, so I wonder if those are, like, the official ones because they usually come to a quarter of
Yeah,
an inch, but, like, I can tell you as someone who helps make line charts here, uh, my simple method is if it's half or 3 quarters, it's rounding up, and if it's just 1/4, we're rounding down. We don't need to even get to a half, but yet alone a quarter, so, shout out
yeah.
Omaha for going to the quarter, that's
Well,
crazy.
and what I wanna know too is why are they doing it with numbers and a slash instead of the decimal? Because it just is very hard for my brain to comprehend on these line charts. Like, they should switch it up then and do 63.25 or something, because if you're doing 6-31/4, it's looking a little sloppy Joe on the line charts, in my opinion. It's looking a
But
little
maybe it's doing its job though, because we're
I
talking
don't
about
know.
their line chart versus their 1-5-2 record at the moment. Like maybe
Yeah,
it's doing its job. Like, hey, let's distract them from the product on the ice, and hopefully the product turns around. Their rink's
hope.
awesome.
Yeah,
To deal like they revealed the new logo this year. They're kind of throwing it back to before they brought back the throwback. So like, I guess maybe they're getting the job. I just don't think a quarter of an inch matters all that much in
yeah,
a hockey player. Like maybe the quarter inch from 5'11" and 3/4 to 6 foot. Maybe like scouts
yeah.
would be like, oh, that's important. But what's the difference between 6'3" and 6'3" and a quarter? I don't see a
You
difference.
know,
And yeah,
that just reminds me of last year. I don't remember who's doing it, if it was the Minnesota Mallards of the Null or who it was in the years before. And I tweeted this, and people thought this was funny. When Null teams, there was like two, I want to say, that were posting line charts with GPAs, and not
yeah,
just like all the GPAs. And I'm like, okay, if you have less, I feel like this should be like when you're in college and you're in a class and talking about resumes. If it's below like 3.0, don't put it on there. Like, just it's
yeah.
probably just shouldn't you should probably just leave it off if it's, like,
I
not good.
remember.
All of them, not just a couple, like, all.
Yeah, I remember that was a thing, like, so before my time in Madison, I was in Corpus Christi, shout out Joey Erickson. I got the Hooks hat on right here too. I remember, like, they're like, "Hey, we need to put GPAs on the line chart for the showcase." And I was kinda thinking to myself, like,
Yeah,
"What if you were just a terrible student up
brutal.
until, like, your junior year and then, like, you turned it on or whatever, but you have, like, a 2.6 and, like, I think there's plenty of people that are succeeding in the real world with a 2.6, but
Yeah,
like having to post that you had a 2.6 in
exactly.
high school to try to get to D3 or D1 programs is wild to me. But yeah,
Yeah.
Corpus definitely had the GPAs on there for a little bit.
Yeah, and I remember because just that's such a rarity. Well, not necessarily maybe for showcase, it's different, but there was a couple regular season games where I saw that, and I hadn't seen that in a long time. So I was like, wow. And then you look at the guys, there's like a handful that would have like higher than a 3.8, and it's like, oh, well, that guy's an academic weapon. You better get Harvard on the phone
Yeah,
with guys, because there'd be a handful where you're like, well, that dude hit the books. So that's always
it's nuts. Yeah,
so.
it's nuts. We got one. Speaking of the null, though, we got one more fun thing. I also kind of suggested we should do like a video of the week, like something just to
Oh yeah.
lighten the mood. Uh, if you're gonna work on your power plays, Sid, how would you do it? Uh, would you end up here? I got a first
I don't
time
know
doing
if
this. Would you break out the soccer ball?
I don't think that would be my first choice. I can barely skate, let alone throw a soccer ball on the ice in skates. So yeah, I have no idea. For anyone listening, if you're on an audio only, there was an all team that it looks like was playing soccer, possible a version of soccer. I don't even know what you want to call that, Drew, on the ice.
It looks like it looks like it's their power play, and they're just whipping the ball around like it's a puck. I don't know what
Yeah,
the
they're not.
method is for it. It's Maine. I can tell you it's Maine of the North American League going around, but like I just don't know what this. Maybe it produces movement without the puck, but some of them have a cannon on them at the hash mark. So I will say, I'd watch out. I think there was a headshot early on in the video. But yeah, that I just don't get what that does for your team. But hey, if it works for the Nordiques, it works for the Nordiques.
Or, like, if anybody is on the Nordiques that happens to be listening to this or you know anyone, like, what is that? Please
Yeah.
let us know. Was that just, like, fun time at the end of practice, or was that, like, s some kind of activity to help something? I
Yeah.
don't know. Let us know. Context, please. Are there any Minnesotans on Maine? I don't even know.
I have no idea. This is a quick roster search here.
No idea. I should look it up quick. Elite
Let's
prospects.
see. Oh, yeah, you
Got
might have to go elite prospects. I see Chaska, so I'm guessing the NAHL's website currently doesn't have states next to it. It just says
Oh,
hometowns. So if there's a
oh,
Chaska somewhere else other than Rylan Oster, uh, that would
oh,
be the only one I see.
he I believe is actually an APX advising athlete. That's the only reason I know
Huge.
he's got those APX ties, but I don't think he was a high school player. Let me look. Yeah, he was a Sioux Falls Power guy, so shout out.
Got it.
But maybe I'll have to message him somehow and be like, "What? Do you know what that is? I don't even know." But
That's
yeah,
wild.
I think he has APX ties. I don't know him personally, but shout out. I think he was a Chaska-Chan Bantam player, so he's got those Minnesota roots, I think.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I wonder what his birth year is. I'm trying to find that right now. Oh
Oh,
six. So he might have played with like Camp. We're doing a deep dive on Rylan Oster. What a first episode.
yeah, this is just I think this is fun though to just find these players and have funny moments of looking up everybody. And I don't think there's anyone else that's a Minnesotan on here. Uh,
Rylan Oster played
uh,
Bantam Double A with Ashton Schultz, Buffalo Sabres pick,
oh,
Jack Christ, Tanner Brender, Adam Kleber, Buffalo Sabres pick, Lucas Sachin, current Green Bay Gambler Owen Bleshins, Sam Sheets. He played with a ton of USHL guys, including Madison's very own Caleb Heil as well. So he played with quite a few USHL players. Look at that.
I
We're
remember
tying it all together.
I remember YHH's own Tony talking about recently. I don't even remember if it was on there off the air at the office talking about that Chaska Chan team because it was just loaded that one year with
Yeah.
all those guys on it, like just with the amount of talent. And obviously, I know this isn't a Minnesota like Bantam pod, but like that team was just wild. So it's another guy
Could you
from
imagine having another team coming into your building like you're 14 years old and there's three NHL draft picks on the other team?
It'd be brutal. It'd be brutal if you're on the
Yeah,
other team.
tough.
So that's absolutely wild, and a lot of those other guys are still playing juniors and are gonna be D1 guys. Or that's what's just wild too, if you're a guy who's gonna end up playing D1 at some point and you have to play with, like, 2 full lines of, like, Division I prospects in front of you, that's just yeah, that's wild, but Minnesota ties all around, absolutely crazy. So, some deep dives on the show, some funny moments. We want to have unhinged fan comment of the week. So if you say something crazy, it might be you on the show. You never know. But otherwise, I don't know. Do you have any closing statements, Drew, or any other things you're looking forward to this week? Or, what are the Caps up to here this week or next week or anything big coming up?
Yeah, the Caps are on the road at Lincoln this week. I don't travel to Lincoln this weekend, so Alex Byrne, shout out another St. Cloud tie. We're looping it all back together. Uh, he'll be on the he'll be on the call this weekend there. But Caps started the season off against Lincoln once, so hopefully they're able to do it. But Caleb Heil, I want to mention him. He's been tearing it up for the Caps. Minnesota kid, goalie of the week, Tampa Bay Lightning. That was Rylan Oster helped bring that name back from the top of my head. Shout out Rylan Oster. Rylan Oster, you had a free invite to next week's show. That's what I'll say. If we
We
can
just
connect the dots,
use and just be like, you know what? Yes. Get him on the show.
absolutely. Maybe
Let me
it's the Rylan
know who
Oster
the advisor
podcast.
is and be like, "Yo, we gotta get him on here. Star of the show."
Just to at least describe what they're doing with that power play
I'm gonna
in the
text
soccer
Tony
goal.
after we're done with this and be like, "Guess who we're name dropping on the show?" and see if he knows all the different players we're talking about. And I hope
Oh,
he's
he
like,
will. He'll know every single one of them. That guy has whatever you want if you want to
a
know
wild
about youth
story
hockey in Minnesota.
deep in his brain about Rylan somehow. Maybe he has some good story he can
True.
share with us. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
don't.
if the podcast was bad, it wasn't our fault. Peter and Tony's fault. That's what we'll blame it on.
Yeah,
Week
that's what we're
one.
gonna say because Peter is gone, and Tony did tell me on the phone like 3 minutes before we recorded that he could have come on the podcast with about 15 minutes of prep, but then he didn't come on the show. So we're blaming them. If you hated this show, I'm sorry, but we're doing
Yeah,
our
if you
best and
hated it,
funny, I promise, will be funny and informative.
yeah. Where else are you getting soccer news and I-80 trash talk?
Yeah, like just it's gonna be wild. It's gonna be crazy, and I hope we bring something different to the table than maybe some of the other podcasts. If you listen to any other junior shows, but otherwise, I think this is a pretty good first episode for the juniors pod. Again, name pending. We might have a new one by next show. It might still just be the YHH Juniors Pod. And again, thank you to our sponsors, the USHL and also APX Hockey. As always, we talk about the USHL the whole show, so everyone knows how much we love the USHL and APX Hockey. You can find out more at apx-hockey.com to find out more. And yeah, I think this was a good first episode, Drew, and we will be back likely with another episode, probably with Peter if he's back in the country, likely within the next week or so here. But thanks for tuning in to the first ever episode of the YHH Junior Hockey Pod.